Hello and welcome to the Global Sports Channel. I'm your host, Mark Philpott, and on the show, I talk to people all over the world about things related to sport. We talk to athletes, coaches, people making amazing products in the world of sport, and everything else that you want to know about the deep dive in the sporting industry. On today's show, I'm going to be talking to someone about some interesting technology associated with the world of sport. Now, if you're first time here watching the Global Sports Channel, thank you for coming along. And we'd love you to subscribe and check out more videos on our channel. Hit the little bell notification button. And every time we drop a video, you'll be notified so you can come back and check it out. We have some really great things on our channel, interviews with sports stars all across the world. So why don't you spend a little bit of time checking all that out. If you're a regular listener and viewer to the show, thank you very much for your patronage. It's muchly appreciated. We couldn't do this without you, and we look forward to having many more guests on the show. So why don't we go over now and meet our guest for today and see what he's up to. So it's a very warm welcome today to the Global Sports Channel to Mr. Ryan Talbot. Ryan, how are you today, mate?
I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Fantastic to have you here. And we were just saying before we started the show today that it was over a year since we last chatted. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, it has been about a year. So a lot's happened in that time, absolutely.
I'm sure it has. Now, you've got a lovely T-shirt on there. We're going to talk all about Vuemotion and what you're doing in the sports world, but you're an interesting guy because you've spent a lot of time in the security sector, and you've also spent time training athletes as well as being a masters athlete yourself. And now you're doing some fantastic stuff with AI technology. So why don't we go back first and give our listeners and viewers a little bit of a taste of Ryan Talbot and where you started off and what got you into security, mate? What was the jump there?
Yeah, good question. So when I was 18, when I left school, I actually got a job at the airport doing security. So that's where it sort of all started for me. And I think, if I look back at even my father, who was in the army for 9 years and spent time in the military. So I always sort of, growing up, had an interest in security, and I think that's probably what got me into it.
Yeah, right. Fantastic. Now, where are you talking to us from today? I should have asked that in the beginning, but everybody will probably want to know where you're sitting in a beautiful office there somewhere in the world.
Yeah, so I'm in the Sutherland Shire in south of Sydney, not far from the beach in Cronulla. So, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful part of the world. So if you're about to hop on a plane and come and visit Australia after a long, long break of traveling, make sure you get to the southern suburbs of Sydney because they're just as nice as everywhere else. And as Ryan said, there's some beautiful beaches there. Do you go running along the beach at Cronulla there?
I do. I try to get there a couple of days a week, just go for a bit of a jog, keep fit.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. So tell us what you did in the security industry. What were some of the things that you got up to in that world?
Yeah, so I spent 25 years in the security industry, showing my age. So I worked quite a lot with video, biometrics and identity. So a lot with government, smart cities, law enforcement and casinos, especially video and surveillance. So I've always had that sort of passion in that space to be able to look at innovation in those areas. It's a very interesting area, and camera technology and surveillance technology is certainly advanced. I spent about 4 or 5 years at Canon as well, working in their imaging and network video solutions area. And as I said, a lot within sort of biometrics and identity, so prisons. I've worked in a lot of different areas and designing solutions across the industry.
Okay, cool. So yeah, you've worked a lot in the security industry and you're just talking about cameras and stuff. I guess the technology has changed so rapidly over the years. You've worked a long time in the industry. So did you see a lot of changes in the technology?
Yeah, look, definitely. Especially going over from analog to digital, IP, high definition video as an example. There's been a lot of changes in that area, and even with the likes of analytics and what's possible and what we can do with video now has just changed significantly.
What are some of the greatest advantages that you've witnessed in your time within the when you were working within the security industry? What were some of the real game changers as far as the technology goes?
I think definitely around, things like facial recognition. That's something that's been really interesting, and that's advanced quite a lot over the last sort of 5 to 10 years. And just analytics in general, just being able to understand objects and movement, and even, when you look at, say, let's take a casino for an example of being able to look at some of the finer movements of human movement.
So for those people out there that, go out in public these days and they see cameras everywhere in shopping malls and shopping centers and all the rest of it, what's your take around the whole privacy thing in terms of people getting concerned that, their face is on every camera where they go around? What do you think of all that?
Look, I think that, just watching as it's evolved, I think that, it certainly has some great opportunities, but there's certainly concerns about privacy as well. And I get that. And I think that there needs to be some better standards in place to be able to protect people's privacy. And that's really starting to come into play a little bit more now around different legislations. But I think, it is advancing so quickly, and trying to keep up with that, it has some concerns, but it also has a lot of advantages as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that sometimes the legislation and laws and everything around technology take a long time to evolve, much faster than the technology itself. So it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it, for those that are managing and administering the laws versus where the technology is going. We're moving so fast to that virtual world environment today, and some of the laws associated with technology is still back in the 18th century. Yeah, so it's a bit hard to get our handle on it all.
Definitely. And I think, even like when we're looking at data and privacy and cybersecurity, that's something that I'm really passionate about with what I'm doing today. So bring in a lot of the expertise that we have across our team as we start to do more within the sports space and look at data and insights of being able to protect that. That's very important.
A good point there. So my question is, are people's devices safer today with the technology that's available to, combat problems with privacy, or are we more at risk today than we've ever been when it comes to our online security?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. And I think, if you look at a lot of the big data companies, you look at the US data companies known as the G Mafia, the Google, Microsoft, Apple, IBM, Facebook, and Amazon, as an example. They do collect a lot of data. They collect a lot of information. And I think that there are so many apps available today. So it's important to be aware of your own security and to be able to protect that. I think we're potentially more at risk. So I think there's a growing need to be able to understand what those risks are and how to protect ourselves from it.
You think the Joe public really understand what's involved when they download an app onto their device? Do they realize how far-reaching that connection and that ability to gather data is actually impacting their lives? Do you think people really truly understand that?
Absolutely not. No.
Yeah. So
look, it's a question across, especially within the security circles of, how we can do things better from a cyber perspective and being able to manage our data. Because I look at myself, I've got thousands of apps on my phone. I don't know who's collecting what data and what's happening with it. So I'm a lot more cautious about what I do now.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Setting the scene for us to move into the sports world. When did you first start getting interested in sport, and in particular, not only training athletes, but also being an athlete yourself? When did all that start to happen for you?
Yeah, so I grew up with boxing. My father was a trainer and a boxing trainer and promoter. My uncle fought at 72 Olympics. So I always had that in the family. I was training myself for about 7 years. I was never a good boxer because I didn't like getting hit, but just definitely the discipline of the training, and I really enjoyed that training. And I think it was when my daughter, so she's 21 in a couple of weeks, but when she started getting involved in little athletics, and I was just one of the parent helpers about when she was 5 or 6 years old, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought, I'd love to see where I could take this, and started coaching other people, and it sort of just progressed from there, really.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Boxing's a fantastic sport from a discipline point of view, and also from a training point of view. You get very fit if you do a lot of boxing training. Are you somebody that's interested in boxing still? Do you still watch the big fights that go on, particularly the heavyweights and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. And Vuemotion have done a little bit of work within the boxing space as well, with competitor analysis.
Yep.
Working with some boxers. So anytime there's a world title fight, I'm usually find myself down at the local pub watching it. I do enjoy it.
So Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, what did you make of the trilogy that they've just finished? Were you pretty much glued to watching that unfold?
Yes, I was. It's interesting to see Tyson Fury, what he has achieved. Unbeaten, and it's absolutely incredible. Just watching his journey as well, and incredible athlete.
Yeah, it is tremendous. And I think it's also one of those stories that kind of transcends sport, right? Because sport is such a unification activity that gets us all involved. But here's a guy that's come from the deepest worlds of depression, immensely overweight, out of condition, really lost the plot there for a long period of time. But was able to, drive himself back, motivate himself, inspire himself, and get back to the top of the world. It's a great story, isn't it, for anybody in life, whether you be a sports person or not?
Yeah, it really shows that, even that he went through so much adversity, that he was able to, just continue with what he was doing and achieve what he has. It's tremendous.
Yeah. Did you pick that Alexander Usyk was going to beat Anthony Joshua? Did you pick that one?
Not really. Like, I'm a big fan of AJ. I've watched a lot of his training and stuff like that, but no, I didn't pick it. No, I thought AJ would get that one.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting rematch. We're all set for that early next year, and see whether AJ can pull himself back like he did against Andy Ruiz.
Absolutely. Yes.
Brilliant. So you got into coaching, and you were getting into little athletics, you were telling us. So where did it evolve? How did things evolve for you after that?
Yeah, I think, I started working with, so, my passion is around sprinting, coaching speed, helping people reach their potential. So, sprints, relays, and hurdles is, my big focus. I study a lot on it. I watch, different people, different coaches, different athletes, and I've always had this, this passion to be able to understand it more. And so I started getting more involved in it and working with some really good athletes, and sort of evolved from there. And then myself, I was training, I was competing as a masters athlete up until about 6 years ago, when I got reactive arthritis. It put me in the hospital, and I was in bed for several months where I couldn't move at all. So,
wow.
The week before that happened, I was out on the track. I was competing in the police games. I won a gold medal. Actually, I won 3 gold medals in that event. And then I find myself a week later with reactive arthritis. I didn't know anything about it, and all my knees or all of my joints were swollen, and I was in terrible state. And so from then I stopped and just started focusing on coaching.
Incredible story. How was that emotionally? It must have been really difficult for an athlete to go from being, fully engaged and fit and competing as well, and successfully, to being able to be doing nothing, basically. How did you cope with that emotionally?
Look, it was really hard, because you're out there, you're training, several days a week, and you're putting everything into it. And then you find yourself on a walking frame and, not being able to walk, and it's incredibly frustrating. And I didn't know how long it was going to last. I just wanted to get out and run. It's something that I did so much of, and it was very, very difficult, physically to be able to move, and also mentally that I couldn't get out and do the things that I was doing before.
How long did it take you to get back from that?
It was about 5 or 6 months before I could actually go for my first run again. So it was a long time.
Yeah, that is a long time. And today you're fully over it. Have you got yourself back to where you were before?
Yeah, I'm fully over it. I'm not training like I was, because so much of my focus and attention now is in building the business and working with the athletes that I have. Some of them are national level athletes. I'd like to be able to hopefully get them onto the international stage as well. So I probably don't spend as much time myself as I should, but that's how it is at the moment.
We can all be guilty of that one, can't we, from time to time? So
absolutely,
that's a good segue that you gave us there, Ryan, because you've really combined your passion for sport to start a new business and to head on using technology, which is another passion of yours. So why don't you tell us about the business that you have started, what you're doing, and where did the idea actually come from?
Yeah, I think it just really sort of manifested from having that background in technology and doing so much within video. And I knew myself as a coach, I was using video, but it was sort of very subjective. I would look at it and they were the tools I had, using different software on my phone, but it really didn't do much for me. I thought there has to be a better way. And my time working at Canon, I met Dr. Amit Gupta, and we're working on some projects within the security space. And a bit over 2 years ago, we were talking, and I said, do you think it's possible to do this? Do you think it's possible to do that? And then it sort of just started from there. And he said, there's so many things that can be solved in this area using computer vision and machine learning and augmented reality and what we can do in the AI space. Let's start working on it. So we started working on that together, and one of the ex-directors of Canon, David Kleinberg, he has a passion for sport and technology as well. So we brought him in as the COO, and we've been working on it ever since. And 15 months ago, I was working as a technology consultant, and I said to my wife, I want to work on this full time. And she said, how long is it going to take? I said, I don't know, maybe a few months. We'll get some investment and we'll go from there. I had no idea what it would take as a startup. I'd run a reasonably successful business in the past within, security and risk management and whatnot, but this is so different. And, then I started getting involved in different programs. So out of Launch Vic with the Australian Sports Technology Network and Studio Founders Program, and just surrounding myself with some good people. But I think Dr. Joe sort of summed it up on a recent podcast about being a startup is like a ping pong ball in a clothes dryer, and it's like she couldn't have said it any better.
Yeah, it's interesting. So there's probably a lot of people watching and listening to the show today who are in similar positions. They're starting up businesses within the sports industry. Let's go back to those early months when you first started the business. What are some of the things that you learnt about yourself as a person that was going into that true startup space for the first time?
Yeah, I think what I learned about myself is that I didn't know much.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I did, but it's really what it takes to build, and especially within technology, because there are a lot of companies out there trying to do some great things in technology, but learning how to build that business correctly and how to look at from a strategic direction, because we had something that was so unique in AI and computer vision that can be applied across so many different areas. There are 170 different sports out there, and we had people coming to us saying, can you do something in gymnastics? Can you do parkour? Can you do golf swing? And the answer to that is yes, but it's really about how we focus and what we focus on and how we commercialize. And so initially we went far and wide, and we were talking to a lot of different sports, from volleyball, aerial skiing. We're doing all the video with them and providing them some AI stuff, and then started getting involved within rugby. And then we thought, okay, well, let's see what we can do with running. That's my passion, and it's an area that hasn't really been solved as far as stride by stride analysis, to be able to extract information out of how someone's moving at the time and over time, throughout time and space, to be able to look at the fine details of how each leg's moving independently. Things like stride length, stride frequency, ground contact time, flight time, kinematic models, to be able to bring that in just using video. And I think, we can thank the likes of technology companies like Apple and Samsung that have put some incredible technology in the hands of the masses with 4K video and high frame rates. But where do we take that? And can we do something with it and build something that we can make available for everyone, because being able to understand how we move, it's fundamental in life. And sports, by nature is very competitive. So to be able to look at insights of how you're moving over time, that's where I really wanted to sort of build something around that. Then the other aspect was around the athlete ecosystem. So athlete, a coach, a physio, strength and conditioning coach, or anyone that works with an athlete. There was this big disconnect there, just going out talking to physios and coaches and athletes and looking at the problem market fit. And then we started working with some really, really good athletes, getting access to Olympic level athletes and, within, first grade rugby, and just to look at how they're moving within their environment. So it's sort of really grown from there.
Yeah, excellent. Now, the company name is Vuemotion. And if you're watching and listening to the show today, I'm going to put all the contact details for Ryan in the show notes. So if you wanted to reach out to Ryan and have a conversation about anything that he's talking about today, and you'll be able to get in contact with him. Now, tell us what, as far as the technology goes, when you guys started this, was there anything else out there in the marketplace that resembled what you were trying to do? Or is this a groundbreaking piece of technology that you guys come up with?
Look, there are certainly different pieces of technology that may look at, AI and machine learning as an example, or, there are different technologies like GPS or wearable devices that are really trying to solve problems in this space. But what we found is what was very unique is to have something that could be used from the video of a mobile phone that was unencumbered by sensors, that we could get within a natural environment and get stride by stride analysis. And, today things are generally done over, say, for example, 20 meters, 50 meters, or whatever it may be. And time is used as a measuring stick still across so many areas of performance. And this is where we found that we could build something very unique that hasn't been done in the market today, and make it easy and accessible and cost effective and available for everyone. Because I think, the more we can understand about how we move, for who we are, the more, we can help, with performance, but also injuries as well, being able to understand injuries. So as an example, hamstring injuries are increasing 2% every year since 2002, despite all the sports science and technology that's out there. Why are we still having so many injuries? So this is where I believe that AI, computer vision technologies can help start solving those problems by understanding movement within a natural environment.
So you talked about before about the differentiation of your technology. So we're not talking about an athlete that's plastered with different sensors. You're using purely visual aspects to capture that information. Is that right?
That's right. So there's really two things. We wanted to bring something out of a lab environment, because that, you move very differently within the lab, and quite often with labs you have, things like stickers or whatever all over you, reflective markers. And we wanted to bring that out into the natural environment, but to use and build a model that didn't require you to wear anything. It's all you needed was a phone, and we can now map every angle of every joint of every frame of video of how you're moving throughout time and space.
Yeah, that's incredible stuff. What about to all the swimmers that are listening today? Can you do underwater stuff?
That's something that's very interesting, and there's certainly underwater cameras, and having a look at what we can get in the sagittal plane and what we can get in the coronal plane to potentially 3D map a swimmer. I think that will be an area that we will look into as we progress with our technology, and take it off the track or the field into different areas within sport. And swimming is something that is very interesting as far as stroke rate, trajectory of limbs, how someone's moving in a pool or in water.
Yeah, excellent. Now, we said at the beginning of the show, you're based in beautiful Sydney in Australia. Have you started working with athletes and coaches across the world? Are you using this technology in different countries?
At the moment, we're at MVP stage, so we have our alpha stage product that we have, and that's only in Australia at the moment, because we need to make sure that as we expand out globally, that there are different laws and regulations, GDPR, and within the health space, which we're getting heavily involved in now, especially around orthopedics, you know, things like HIPAA in the US, and we want to make sure that we can do something well here and then take that out globally. But there's certainly a lot of interest in what we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So are you still after investment for the business? Do you want more investors to come on board and support you?
Yes, definitely. So we just finished our pre-seed round, which was Safe Notes, and we've got some really good strategic investors. We have a number of orthopedic surgeons, cybersecurity, the video and technology space. So we have 12 investors that we have oversubscribed of our initial requirement, and now we're moving into a seed round. So we are looking for investors that have an interest in AI and sport and health, and you know, have a passion in that area, because we're looking for strategic investors that we can work with as well.
Okay, good. So again, if you're watching and listening to the show today and you've got some interest in the AI and sports space and health space, get in touch with Ryan and drop a few dollars his way. Do you take Bitcoin as well, Ryan?
Look, I love blockchain technology, so I think that's the way things are going as far as, you know, yeah, some of the solutions in that area. So who knows where we'll go in the future, but it's an area that's certainly growing and gaining a lot of attention.
Okay, cool. Now, I know a lot of people would be interested for me to ask you this next question. What's the latest conversation been with the wife about how long the business is going to take to grow and go to the next level?
Well, after 15 months of her supporting me, and she's been absolutely incredible. She did remind me recently that you told me you'd get investment in March. It's now October. Where are things going? But she can see the money starting to come in now, and the huge amount of interest in what we're doing. So it's yeah, she's been supportive, but it's been a long time.
They say behind every great man is a woman rolling her eyes. So I'm sure that she's giving you lots of great support. So how's the business journey? How are you enjoying that at the moment? Now that you've got your feet well into it, you've got rid of all the mystique of what it's like to run a business. How are you enjoying it?
Look, I love it. I've got a really good team around me, and if I was doing this myself, I certainly wouldn't be enjoying it. I don't know how founders, as a single founder, and when they become successful, hats off to them, because the amount of work that goes into it, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It seems like it's, you know, you live it, you breathe it, you sleep it. And, you know, the journey has been incredible, especially during COVID as well. It's, you know, for some businesses, that's been very hard. And, you know, to be able to jump on a Zoom like I am with you today, you know, we have daily meetings with the team to look at, you know, where the business is going, especially around getting investment to prepare ourselves for that, just growing the business, the legal, the tax side, building the technology itself, and then working with customers. Yeah, like it's incredible just to be able to go out and work with the coaches and physios and some of the best athletes across the country to get that opportunity. It's absolutely amazing.
I was going to ask you about the impacts of COVID and how it's affected your business. Has it made you more focused than ever by being in that, I guess, tunnel vision, or have you just carried on the strategy that you're working with pre-COVID?
I think with and especially lockdowns, we had, you know, extensive lockdown here in New South Wales, certainly not as bad as Victoria, but it allowed me to be able to focus on what I needed to do. And if I look at, if that wasn't the case, I would have definitely been out there with more and more customers to be able to work with them. I would have been able to travel more and get involved in more things. But being able to have the opportunity where, you know, I can sit down day to day working from home, or, you know, even yesterday I was working from the beach, found a nice bench there, take my laptop, the ability to be able to be mobile and portable, and especially within the area I'm in, where I can go to National Park or the beach and, you know, sit down with my laptop and jump on meetings and have some great conversations and build the business. It's really allowed me to focus over that time, and I think I probably got more done than I would have ever before.
Yeah, really interesting. How's the COVID situation impacted the people that you're working for, the, you know, the clients, basically the athletes and all the rest of it? Has it impacted their schedules and lifestyles?
Yeah, definitely. Like I even look at the athletes I'm working with the sprint and hurdles athletes, how it's affected them, because we generally plan for the season, and then we look at individual programs of what their events are, and what's really important is to have an environment for the athlete where all the athletes are there, because athletes adapt to their environment and who they're around. So having that lockdown did impact them quite a lot, where they couldn't go out and train with other people, and they had to do a lot themselves. So it was quite difficult. And some of them even mentally affected them quite a lot as well.
Yep.
Because training as an athlete and putting so much time and effort and commitment into it, and then that sort of stops, and we've had to sort of repivot and rethink the ways that we coach remotely without them having a coach there, without them having the athletes that they're generally surrounded with within their sessions.
Yeah.
And then from even clients being able to go out and work with them, so many things shut down, even just generic testing. So I think it was similar across a lot of different sports. Sports stopped. Certainly affected even my own children, my boys. They couldn't go out and play sports as well, so they were at home on the PlayStation or whatever. They weren't able to go out there and train and play their sports and be surrounded by other people their own age.
Yeah. Couple of business related questions now for you. I'm always interested to know the story behind a company name. Where did Vuemotion come from? What's the story there?
Yeah, so View is anything to do with viewing, so cameras and using visual and imaging, and then motion is all around just being able to track and understand and contextualize movement. So that sort of made sense to combine view and motion together, and yeah, that's how we came up with it.
Okay, cool. Now you've had, as I said, you've had your time to get your feet wet in the world of startups and all the rest of it. If you were to start all over again, would there be anything that you'd do differently if you were to start again?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Look, I think the trajectory we have gone on, I've learned a lot along the way. I certainly wouldn't have told my wife within 3 months we'll have investment and we'll be well on our way to being a global company. But I think it really is about just focus on what you're doing, and don't try and do too many things at once, because you're going to get a lot of noise. You're going to get a lot of different opinions. You meet with 4 people, you get 10 opinions.
Yep.
So really focus on what you're doing and build the business. It's a business. It's the people around. Surround yourself with the right people. We're getting some really good strategic advisors into the company now across both sport and health. So I don't think I would have done too much differently, but yeah, it's a big learning curve. And just for anyone that's out there that's in a startup, that just keep going, and every time you do something you get a little bit better at it. It's just like an athlete, so just keep going, keep building, and you'll make mistakes. You will sometimes go in a different direction, but just try and always bring back that focus. It's really important to be able to be successful in business, to be able to look at who your customers are, make sure that you have a good problem market fit, that you're not just designing a solution that doesn't really fit anything out there just because it's a good idea. Like understand the customers and what they need and what the requirements are, and figure out where the business opportunities are.
Yeah, very good advice, and a good analogy too, saying that the business world's like being an athlete, because you go through similar things, and just like an athlete gets injured sometimes, a business person gets injured as well, but it's more emotionally and spiritually than anything else. So
yeah, absolutely.
Really interesting. You talk about global company. What's the 5-year vision for Vuemotion? Where do you hope to be in 5 years from now?
Look, in 5 years, the more we can start to capture and understand human movement across sport and health, I'd like to really sort of branch out globally. And we're now looking at getting a lot of private schools, and from grassroots right up to professional athletes. And I think there's this big opportunity to fill these gaps for communication, for collaboration, for what we can do with video. And I think the health space is really interesting as well. We have an aging population, and we look at studies, a Harvard study, for example, over 65 years old, your life expectancy is based on your gait and walking. Being able to understand how we can teach people to move better, because we do things in a certain way. They learn behaviors, they learn skills, whether it's holding a pen or brushing our teeth or walking or running. If we can understand that and improve that, the applications are huge. And that's why there's been such a significant interest in the orthopedic space, and having investors, foot and ankle surgeons, knee surgeons, neurosurgeon, to be able to be involved in helping us develop new technologies around human movement, and especially for the likes of surgeries and pre and post surgery movement analysis, to be able to get people back to sport faster, or back to range of function, or back to life faster. And I don't think we have to live with pain as much as we have to, and some of that is really around how we move.
Yeah, really good. I can see a world of need and opportunity with your product, because if we look at the power movement within sport, you've got so many diverse groups there that have all sorts of different conditions. And this kind of technology, I think also if you look at the spinal cord injury community around the world, and people that are living in wheelchairs today, there's lots of opportunities, I'm sure, for their rehab and training and all the things that they're going through. So yeah, it's a fantastic product. So you like to see yourself on a global stage in 5 years, and ticking off a lot of these different industry segments that you're getting into as well.
Yes, definitely. And like even mentioning the para athletes, and last year a para athlete approached us. He has a below the knee amputation from a car accident. We started working with him. And this is where we could start to use some of the technology. He won the national title for his classification, which was absolutely incredible. Just amazing, driven athlete, doesn't let anything stop him. And just being able to work with someone like that, it's been incredible. It's been incredible for me as a coach, because the first time I've actually worked with a para athlete.
Yep. And
this is where, once again, being able to understand how he's moving was really interesting, and we're able to pick up the asymmetries between his prosthetic leg and his other leg, and then be able to provide that feedback, which is really interesting. And he's getting a new prosthetic leg being made now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I'm so glad you shared that story with us. So thank you for doing that, because business is so much more than just making money and making profits. And you're working in a space where you're going to change lives. You're going to impact people like the person that you just talked about, and many, many more. And that's going to bring another level of satisfaction, I'm sure, and reward to what you're doing in your business. So hats off to you for that. Now, I said at the beginning of the show, Ryan, that I was going to try and ask you some questions that you'd never been asked on an interview before. So here's one for you. When you are traveling around and going to visit clients and all the rest of it, you might be flying between, say, Sydney and Melbourne. What's your favorite snack food to eat while you're on the go traveling?
Nuts. I love nuts. Absolutely.
You love nuts, okay.
I probably eat too many of them, especially when I'm on a plane. I usually get like 3 or 4 packets and get into them. So it's probably not good for me.
Fantastic. Is there any specific type of nut that you like?
I love cashews.
Cashews, yeah, okay, yeah. They are good, but they're also dangerous for other reasons. Yeah,
absolutely.
So there you go. You've never been asked that question before, have you? On a
no, I haven't. No, first time.
There you go. Now, finally today, Ryan, if someone's listening and watching the show and they've heard about your amazing technology and what you're doing, is there any specific area that you're looking for help or support right now that people can help you with?
Look, at the moment, anyone that has a global reach, anyone that has a passion for sport and looking at motion capture analysis and what's possible in that space, I'd definitely like to speak to anyone that even may have another business where they think that, or a product where they think that there are synergies there. And I'm finding that more and more. So if anyone's interested and wants to reach out, I'm on LinkedIn, so you can reach out to me through LinkedIn. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make sure I put your LinkedIn address on the description notes of the show today so people can get hold of you. I do see many opportunities for collaboration with your business, and there's lots of other associated type organizations I think would be a really nice fit to you. So let's hope those people reach out. Well, Ryan, we've come to the end of the show today, and I just want to thank you very much for giving me your time and giving the Global Sports Channel audience an opportunity to listen about what you're doing and the journey that you're on. I'd like to get you back in another year's time, and we can talk about how everything's unfolding and just see where your business is at if you'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. And thanks for having me on for a talk today. And thanks for the work that you're doing as well, because you're really getting businesses and sports technology companies and entrepreneurs and so many athletes and coaches and this whole world of sports. I know that's your passion, to be able to to change that and bring people together. So thanks for inviting me on. I'd love to be back on in 12 months time, and I look forward to listening to some of the other people on your show as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Ryan, and we will catch up with you again very soon.
Thank you.
So there we go. That was Ryan Talbot talking to me today from a company called Vuemotion, who's doing some really exciting stuff in the world of AI and technology and sport. As I said, if you want to get in contact with Ryan through the Global Sports Channel, I'll be putting all of his contact details in the show notes today for you to be able to get it. And when I say show notes, the description down below of this particular video. Thank you very much for tuning into the Global Sports Channel today, and I would love to have you back again. So please subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification, and that will let you know each time we drop a video. If you're out there in the sports world and you want to come on the show to talk about your product or how you're changing the world of sport, I would love to hear from you. So just reach out to me and get in contact. You'll also find my contact details in the description below, and we could get you onto the show and talking about your product or business or service. Until the next time, my name's Mark Philpott. Stay safe, stay well, and stay fit, everyone. Bye for now.